In this video, I'll show you how to do pre-ride checks. Stay tuned. So then, pre-ride safety checks, something that's really important and should be performed every time you go out riding. It's going to keep you safe and it's going to alert you to any problems under the surface so that you can sort them out before you get onto the road and perhaps get yourself into trouble. As these checks are not going to take very long at all, we need a nice simple memory aid. And I've got an acronym for you: POWDERS. POWDERS stands for petrol, oil, water or coolant in this case, D for damage, E for electrics, R for rubber, and also S for suspension. If you remember that simple acronym, you can work through your bike really quickly before you get out on the road. So then let's break up the acronym in its component parts, starting with P. So then if we concentrate on our LCD display right at the front here, we switch the bike on, let it run through its cycle, and as we can see, there is enough petrol in this vehicle. I'm ready to go. So if we remember the acronym, we're moving down to O. O stands for oil and or lubricants. If we look down here on this bike, which is a Yamaha FZ1, I have an hourglass here which allows me to see the level. The bike is leaning over at the moment and I did ride it in, so the engine is at temperature. That means that my hourglass isn't actually showing or registering the oil. However, there are two notches situated either side, the lowest meaning you need to top up and the highest the maximum or the running level. Please check your engine oil, it's so important. It's what keeps the engine ticking over, and make sure you do regular oil checks. If you're lucky enough to have a dipstick, they're normally situated at the top here, and you can obviously visually inspect that and top up where necessary. Okay then, moving on to the next letter on our acronym, W for water, or in this case coolant. On this bike there are two filling points, the first of which is just under this cowling and is the main access point for the radiator. When the bike is cold, and I stress this, when the bike is cold, take off the cap and visually inspect it. Top up where necessary. Also, I have an expansion tank just situated behind the frame here, and they have two readings. When the bike is warm it'll be reduced, but when it's cold the reservoir should be full. Again, top up where necessary. So moving on then to the letter D. D stands for damage, and what we're going to do here is an overall visual walk around of the bike, noting down any damage that needs to be rectified immediately. So let's do that. With this being my bike, I'm more than satisfied there's nothing wrong with it. However, your bike might be covered in crap from the last ride. My suggestion would be try and get her washed following each ride. That way you'll be able to do that visual inspection, pulling her into the garage or wherever you've parked. So to the electrics then. These checks are fundamental, as any lights, any damage caused to the electrical system could prove problematic elsewhere in the motorcycle. It also could mean you'll have a run-in with the law and end up with a fine. We don't want that. So bike on, checking the front headlight to see if that's illuminated. Some bikes won't actually illuminate unless the bike is switched on, so I'll be quiet for a second as I start the bike. I'm now satisfied that the front light illuminates. Moving on to the indicators. Checking visually with your hand. also the rears. They work. And moving on to the brake, using your hand to illuminate that brake light. Moving over to the lever, again checking with your hand. I'm satisfied on this occasion, this bike and its electrics are working perfectly, but please do check them before your journey. To the rubber then, starting with the front tyre here, and what we're looking for is the continuity of the rubber, making sure that there are no divots, bulges, gouges, splits. It can be tricky moving the front tyre around, but take your time, making sure that there's no damage. It's quite an easy check to do and shouldn't take more than a couple of seconds to get a rotation of that tyre round, and we're already done. The front tyre is a-okay. Let's move on to the back. And so to the back tyre then, really important this one. It's the largest amount of rubber on the bike and very expensive if you're running Pilot 5s like I am. Moving the tyre backwards, again we're just running our hand very gently and carefully over that rubber to ensure that there's no dirty great nails and or screws sticking out. We're also checking the side wall of the tyre as we go for any bulges. These are relatively new, and this being actually a month, not even a month, a couple of weeks newer than the front, and the reason for that is because no sooner did I have these fitted, I got a dirty great big screw straight in one of the weather dispersion channels. A very costly issue, so I had it replaced. So then it's time to check our tyre pressures. Now we've checked the rubber and that's all in order, let's check our pressures. Now I'm going to be using a Draper digital pressure gauge. It only cost I think about £10 or something like that. Really small, compact, easy to just leave in the garage. And there we go, PSI reading. Now you can check your PSI rating in the manual, but equally you can check the side wall of the tyre for the correct pressure. I'm satisfied that I'm all good, so let's move on. So the final check here is the suspension, and what we're going to do is get a hold of the front brake and we're going to push down and rock down, and what we're trying to feel for is any notchiness, any real give to the fork. The consequence of that also allows us to inspect this part of the fork, and while we're looking here, we're looking for any residue, any oil that's managed to breach. We're checking the dust caps, making sure that they're clean as well, and we're looking for signs of corrosion.
Ask yourself this question: am I fit to ride? You join me now on the bike to talk about something really important. We're all subject to the stresses of life, but we really need to be focused in our riding. If you have a headache, or you're taking medication, or perhaps you're just not feeling up to it, please don't ride unless you are fit to do so. Avoid dangerous decisions and situations and make sure that you get home to your loved ones safely. Please ride safe and love life.
So then that's it, powders, nice and easy, very simple checks. These checks could potentially save your life. They're great checks for you, your pillion and other road users. For all, you don't want to be dumping oil all over the road because your bike's not fit, and you certainly don't want to be getting a ticket off the police. We love giving those out like tokens. If you found this video useful, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's really important. I'm only a small channel at the moment, and I'm trying my best to update my content quite regularly and build a community. Thanks to those of you that's already subscribed, and and made comments. I really like interacting with people. Real genuine bloke, no bullshit with me, so I really appreciate it. Like the video, please share it, and head over to Instagram at Rob the Yorkshireman, and you can see some of the pictures of my rides and stuff like that. Still only brand new, but I'm getting there slowly but surely. Until the next video, see you soon. Bye now.